They say everyone has a book inside them, and often that's where it should stay. I really can't help but be aghast that the author wants you to pay. But we're just a pair of absolute bookends who don't want to be like us. So if you want to read, pick some quality literature rather than this dross.
Hello, welcome to Two Absolute Bookends, where we read books so bad you should burn them before reading. This is episode 14, still no title, but for the last time for a while. And helping me teach those sluts the meaning of humility this week is Louis.
Hello.
And we're going to be reading from chapter 7 onwards of The Eye of Argon by Jim Theis, who, again, you can't support, he's still dead, but, you know, read it. Yo, you can do it. So I guess, quickly, just to bring things up to speed, this should be our last episode on the Eye of Argon before we get back to The Way the Stars Fall. And what happened in the Eye of Argon last week? Not very much, but written out in a very long way, if I recall.
Yep.
We went back to the Acolytes. They tried to execute a girl, we think. He kissed her, she threw up on him. He choked her, she kicked him in the balls. Then the other shaman woke up and molested her until she passed out.
Standard so far.
Yeah, Grigner was let out of his dank hole by two incompetent guards who he managed to kill with a rat pelvis shiv that he had hidden in his loincloth or G-string, we're not sure which. Maybe both. Never nude Grigner. Yeah, then he explored the area, nearly got killed by a trap while looking at a Cresset storehouse. Went down through there, heard a scream, just threw away a corpse. Realised that the entrance was underneath the rotting corpse. And then went down, saw the Acolytes molesting the girl. Once he charged in, one of the people had an epileptic seizure and fell over. Grigner killed the rest. He realised that the girl was Carmina, the wench who made love well that he saw in the tavern earlier. And basically, they decide to start escaping together, and they have a bit of a chat about their backstories. Carmina used to be part of Agathim, who's our fat prince, used to be part of his sort of like harem. Then she escaped and lived very close to the palace, I suppose. She didn't get far after escaping. But yeah, and then they're just trying to escape and share in stories. Nothing really of importance because this is the Eye of Argon. And I think that's about where we got to.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
right.
pretty much it, I think.
Yeah, I think that covers it adequately.
Yeah, and that brings us to chapter 7, which is split into two halves. 7 and 7.5, and then the all-exciting lost ending.
Which was apparently retrieved at some point. We'll read out the little editor's note that came with it as well, because that's short and it's a bit of a laugh for someone else's opinion on Jim Theis' ability of writing The Eye of Argon and the original typed-up copy that he received back in the 70s.
So, without further ado, chapter 7. With wobbling knees and swimming head, the priest that had lapsed into an epileptic seizure rose unsteadily to his feet. While enacting his choking fit in writhing agony, the shaman was overlooked by Grigner. The barbarian had mistaken the seizure for the death throes of the acolyte, allowing the priest to avoid his stinging blade. The sight that met the priest's inflamed eyes nearly served to sprawl him upon the floor once more. The sacrificial sat in grim, blood-spattered silence all around him, broken only by the occasional yelps and howls of his maimed and butchered fellows. Above his head rose the hideous idol, its empty socket holding the shaman's eye-furbished, infuriated gaze. Eye-furbished?
Eye-furbish?
I don't know. Did Steve Jobs write this? Before his time. Yeah, it is literally the letter I and then furbished in yeah.
What would be a furbished gaze, if that was even what he meant to say?
Yeah.
That word just seems, whatever it's meant to be, just seems entirely unnecessary. Like, holding the shaman's infuriated gaze. That's fine. What could I furbished possibly be trying to say?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I was about to say infuriated, but then I realised I was looking at the word infuriated.
I mean, he did have an awful lot of like double words last time,
but it's like just slightly too different to be like a typo.
Yeah, like it doesn't. I mean, what would he have? How would he have mistyped infuriated so badly he got eye furbished, and then decided rather than deleting it to just start again? Just that's wrong. Let's try typing infuriated again.
His eyes turned to a stony glaze with the realization of the pillage and blasphemy. Due to his high susceptibility following the seizure, the priest was transformed into a raving maniac, bent solely upon wreaking revenge. With lips curled and quivering. What is it about curling lips in this book? It's like, I don't like it.
I don't know what you can do about it.
And quivering. They're always curled and quivering. Never one or the other. Anyway, with lips curled and quivering, a crust of foam dripping from them, the acolyte drew a long, wicked-looking dual-hilted scimitar from his silver girdle and fled through the aperture in the ceiling, uttering a faintly perceptible ceremonial gibberish.
Nice.
End
of chapter 7.
Yep, 2 paragraphs.
That was a lovely and brief one compared to chapter 6.
So, I'm confused about the timeline here. He already escaped and is on his way out with that girl. Mm-hmm. Why are we being brought back to this now?
He hasn't escaped. He was still they were still working their way out of the complex.
Yeah, but I think he's at least left that room, right, with the shamans.
Yeah.
It's almost like we've gone back in time.
Well, maybe. We're not sure how it chronologically fits. We know it's after Grigna and the girl have left the ceremony room, but, this is just setting up that the epileptic is awake and he's raving with gibberish. He's going to chase down Grigna. But
the way it is described is that the shaman was overlooked by Grigna. So, he's still in the room.
No, that's not what it's saying. It's just saying that he had been overlooked by Grigna when Grigna was killing everyone. He thought he was dead, or dying at least, so he didn't bother killing him.
Right. Oh, I see. Okay. So he's just drawn his sword and is on his way to find him. It's not saying anything. Right. For some reason I
quite like the idea of Grigna just watching this guy get up, start screaming, drawing his sword, then running away out of the entrance in the ceiling. Just like, what the fuck was that about? But that isn't what was actually happening.
I get you. So that was chapter 7. Short and sweet.
I mean, this doesn't seem like the most healthy and stable acolyte. What 1 minute so terrified that he collapses in epileptic fits just from seeing a bulging barbarian, and then foaming at the mouth and maddened, just running away, screaming gibberish with his sword swinging about. I mean, I guess you have to take what acolytes you can get when you're part of some weird underground cult like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I assume there's no medical they have to pass.
Okay, we're going to pull away. We're going to pull away this screen, and there's going to be a barbarian behind it. If you collapse and start having an epileptic fit, then you're not allowed to join. Okay, I guess I'm on to 7.5 then. A sweeping scimitar swung towards Grigna's head in a shadowed blur of motion. With axe raised over his head, Grigna prepared to parry the blow, while gaping wide-eyed, but without a space, I believe, wide-eyed in open-mouthed perplexity, suddenly a sharp snap resounded behind the frothing shaman. The scimitar, halfway through its fatal sweep, dropped from a quivering, nerveless hand, clattering harmlessly to the stone-edge. Cutting his screech short with a bubbling red-mouthed gurgle, the lacerated acolyte staggered under the pressure of the released springboard. After a moment of hopeless struggling, the shaman buckled, sprawling face down in a widening pool of blood and entrails. That spelling mistake again.
Yeah.
Double-L'd blood. His regal purple robe blending enhancingly with the swirling streams of crimson. Is that saying that the purple's really bringing out the blood?
Yeah.
Just, That is a really enhancing colour palette, you know. They both work far better for being together. So, our acolyte got caught on the catapult that isn't a catapult that nearly got Grigna earlier.
Yep.
Nice. I knew Grigna reset the trap for something. Murph! I thought I'd killed the last of those dogs, muttered Grigna in a half-apathetic state. Nay, Grigna, you doubtless grew careless while giving vent to your lusts. But let us not tarry any longer lest we overtax the fates. The paths leading to freedom will soon be barred. The wretch's Kriz must certainly have attracted unwanted attention, the wench mused. I don't think this insistent terminology of referring to every woman of a wench is ever going to stop being ridiculous. Mm-hmm. By what direction shall we pursue our flight? Up that stair and down the corridor a short distance in the concealed entrance to a tunnel seldom used by others than the prince, and known to few others save the palace's royalty. It is used mainly by the prince when he wishes to take leave of the palace in secret. It is not always in the prince's best interest to leave his chateau in public view. Ah, chateau. Even while under heavy guard, he is often assaulted by hurtling stones and rotting fruits.
Often.
Yeah, that's... I don't know, I think he needs to get better guards if people are able to, like, effectively throw stones at him.
Well, he's a big target.
See what you did there. The commoners have little love for him. Lectured the Nair lady. What? What? What's a Nair lady?
I don't know. Nair seems familiar to me, the word.
Well, it like reminds me of like a ne'er-do-well, even though it's not spelt that way. Because it's like near.
Well, I looked up Nair just then, and it says... where's it gone? It says, were not. So maybe it's saying, like, the not lady? The, like, the wench?
She is a wench.
Yeah. Either way, it's odd.
That is very odd. I mean, I'm just going to assume it has something to do with her being a wench / whore. Somehow. /
slut.
No, only men are sluts in this world.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus. Murph. It is amazing that they would ever have left a pig like him become their ruler. I should imagine that his people would rise up and crucify him like the dog he is. Is he a dog or a pig, Grigna? Yeah. Come on. Find a consistent animal to compare him to. Alas, Grigna, it is not as simple as all that. His soldiers are well paid by him. So long as he keeps their wages up, they will carry out his damned wished. The crude implements of the common folk would never stand up under an onslaught of forged blades and protective armour. They would be going to their own slaughter, stated Carthena to a confused but angered Grigna as they topped the stairway. He's so angry, but he doesn't know why.
Or he's confused at his anger. What is this?
What is this feeling I feel? I don't like it. I know. I think Grigna's often angry.
Yeah.
Yet how can they bear to live under such oppression? I would sooner die beneath the sword than live under such a dog's command, added Grigna as the pair stalked down the hall in the direction opposite that in which Grigna had come.
Smart.
Clever. Rather than just walking deeper into the, catacombs and tunnels. But all men are not of the same mould that you are born of. They chose to live as they are so as to save their filthy necks from the chopping block, returned Carthena in a disgusted tone.
It should probably be noted that mould there was M-O-L-D.
Yeah, that wasn't just me saying it's stupid. That's how it was written.
Mold.
So we brought attention to it. Don't be sending in your angry mail.
Mail? If I get mail from anything about this, I'm going to be concerned.
Yeah, it would raise questions. Returned Carthena in a disgusted tone as she cast an appeased glance towards the stalwart figure at her side, whose arm she wound dexterously around her slim waist, his slowly waning torch casting their images in intermingling wisps as it dangled from his left hand. So like, Carthena is so disgusted with the people of the city, but, you know, when she escaped, she just went to live as a whore in the city. Like, you know, she's not much better.
I suppose.
Whatever. I don't care if you're a hypocrite, Carthena. You're just a wench.
Who makes love well.
So well. So lithe. Sacking nipples. She had a hard life in the Seraglio before escaping. Presently Carthena came upon the panel, concealed amongst the other granite slabs and discernible only by the burned-out cresset above it. As I pushed the cresset aside, pushed the panel inwards, Katrina motioned to the panel she was referring to, and twisted the cresset in a counterclockwise motion.
If there's one thing I'm glad for from reading this book, is I now know what a cresset is.
Yeah?
It's good to learn.
Yeah, it's... I mean, it's a shame that we've just learnt a method of, like, medieval and Renaissance lighting, so it's not going to come up often, but, you know, all knowledge is good knowledge. Grigna braced his right shoulder against the walling, concentrating the force of his bulk against it. The slab gradually swung inward with a slight grating sound. Carthena stooped beneath Grigna's corded arms and crawled upon all fours into the passage beyond. Grigna followed after easing the slab back into place. Winding before the pair was a dark, musty tunnel, exhibiting tangled spider webs from it, ceiling to wall, and an oozing sickly slime running lazily upon its floor. Hanging from the chipped wall upon Grigna's, with capital R at the end of it.
For reasons.
Like, I'm not even sure quite how to pronounce that differently, but I need it noted. Upon Grigna's right side was a half-moulded corpse, its grey, flacking arms held in place by rusted iron manacles. Carthena flinched back into Grigna's arms at sight of the leering set... What? Carthena flinched back into Grigna's arms at sight of the leering set in an ugly, distorted grimace, staring horribly at her from hollow, gaping sockets. So that's just saying that she jumped back from the corpse's dead gaze?
Yeah.
I think. This alcove must also be used by Agathim as a torture chamber. I wonder how many of his enemies have disappeared into these haunts, never to be heard from again, pondered the hulking brute. Grigna, such a thinker. Such barbarian ponder. Let us flee before we are also caught within Agathim's ghastly clutches. The exit from this tunnel cannot be very far from here, said Carthena with a slight sob in her voice, as she sagged in Grigna's encompassing embrace. Aye, it will be best to be finished with this corridor as soon as possible, but why do you flinch from the sight of death so? Murft. This time, M-R-I-F-T.
Yep.
So, I don't know if this is a different god, or a misspelling, like... Maybe they have like a pantheon. They have Murft, Murray, Merc, the whole accordion pantheon. You have seen much death this day without exhibiting such emotions, exclaimed Grigna as he led her trembling form along the dingy confines. The man hanging from the wall was Doyanta. He had committed the folly of showing affections for me in front of Agathim. He never meant any harm by his actions. At this, Carthena broke into a slow, steady whimpering, chocking her voice with gasping sobs. There was never anything between us, yet Agathim did this to him. The beast! May the demons of hell's deepest haunts claw away at his wretched flesh for this merciless act, she prayed.
Nice. You got through it.
Yes.
So who is this person?
This is Doyanta. Doyanta.
Yeah. So he just like showed affection for her in front of the prince.
Yeah, he
Right.
he like gave her a naan bread once, and you know that was it. That was showing too much favour to one of Agathim's favoured. They never even got to make love well, apparently. So yeah, that's just how crazy Agathim is. You can't even give one of his sex slaves a naan bread without getting killed for it. Madness. I detect that you felt more for this fellow than you wish to let on. But enough of this. We can talk of such matters after we are once more free to do so. So Grigna's a bit jealous. He's
Yeah.
worried that someone else has made love well to Carthena, of this mouldering corpse hanging on the wall.
I'll fight you, mate.
It's like, look at you, your skin's flacking away, while look at my bulging muscles in the prime of their physical condition. I'll have you, corpse. I'll fuck you up, Dianta. I like that that's his response to this. To her basically going, I'm sad because that man was a man I know who was tortured to death. He's like, I think you're lying to me. We're going to talk about this later, Carthena, if that is your real name, wench. With this, Grigna lifted the grieved female to her feet and strode onward down the corridor, supporting the bulk of her weight with his surging left arm. Okay.
There's something about his left arm I've noticed that's like much better than his right. I think if you go back, you'll see that she like grabs hold of his left arm, and I don't know, his left arm is just used a lot for some reason.
I know. Maybe is right. Maybe that's like a bit of misdescription. That while his left arm's like physical Adonis kind of thing, he's got like a withered right arm.
Yeah.
It's just all.
Presently, a dim light was perceptibly flittering into the
Filtering.
What?
Filtering.
Filtering. Okay, got it. Starting again. Presently, a dim light was perceptibly filtering into the tunnel, casting a dim reddish hue upon the mouldy wall of the passage's grim confines. Cartagena... How are you pronouncing it?
I was saying Carthena.
Okay. Carthena had ceased her whimpering and partially regained her composure. The tunnel's end must be nearing. Rays of sunlight are beginning to seep into... Grigna clammied his right hand over Carthena's mouth, and with a slight struggle pulled her over to the shadows to the right-hand wall of the path, while at the same time thrusting this torch beneath an overhanging stone to smother its flickering rays. "Be silent! I can hear footfalls approaching through the tunnel," growled Grigna in a hushed tone. "All that you hear are the horses corralled at the far end of the tunnel. That is further sign that we are nearing our goal," she stated. She stated, I should say.
Yes! Exclamation mark.
"All that you hear is less than I hear." Alright. He's still like salty about the whole what's his face? Doyanta.
Yeah.
He can't let it go.
Still can't let it go. To say, oh, well, maybe you don't hear so good, bitch.
"I heard footsteps coming towards us. Silence yourself that we may find out whom we are being brought into contact with. I doubt that any would have thought as yet of searching this passage for us. The advantage of surprise will be upon our side," Grigna warned.
Careful now.
Carthena cast her eyes downward and ceased any further pursuit towards conversation, an irritating habit in which she had gained an amazing proficiency. What?
What a bitch Grigna's become since he found out about Dianta.
What a weird... How is that a habit of, like, casting your eyes down and ceasing conversation?
No, I think he's saying that her propensity towards conversation is an irritating habit. I think he's trying to say that she talks too much.
But Carthena cast her eyes downward and ceased any further pursuit towards conversation.
Yeah?
An irritating habit in which she had gained an amazing proficiency.
Yeah, in which it
But it's
So
just
that
an
irritating
odd...
habit is conversation.
Oh, I see. So her conversation is irritating.
Yeah.
Nice. Good thing she makes love well.
That's all she's got going for
Yeah.
her.
Two figures
Along with her sagging nipples.
Two figures came into the pair's view from around a turn in the tunnel. They were clothed in rich, luxuriant silks and rambling and rambling on in conversation, while ignorant of their crouching foes waiting in an ambush ahead. It's just the letter O for some reason. That barbarian dog is cringing beneath the weight of the lash at this moment, sire. He shall cause no more disturbance. Aye, and so it is with any... What the fuck? Okay. Aye, and so it is with any who dare to cross the path of Sargon's chosen one, said the second man. But the peasants are showing signs of growing unrest. They complain that they cannot feed their... they complain... They complain that they cannot feed their families while burdened with your taxes. Apparently there's a lot of people with foot fetishes here. And incest fetishes. They feed their families. That's not the first time we've seen a misspelling with feet. Not in this book, but that was for a fleet. Remember?
Oh, yeah. I remember those days.
Yeah, anyway, they complain that they cannot feed their families.
Like that seems like a good thing. Like, you don't want to be feeding your families.
No.
I think Agathim's in the right with his taxes. Too much family feeding going on throughout the city.
I shall teach those sluts the meaning of humility. Order an immediate increase upon their taxes.
Still too much feeding going on.
Yeah. They dare to question my sovereign authority? Ha-ah! They shall soon learn what true opposition can be. If only it wasn't ha-ah and it was the other way around. Ah-ha!
No. Ha-ah! How do you exclaim?
Ha-ah! Ha-ah!
Sorry, I was getting distracted.
It was always going to come back to that at some point.
Can never get too far away from Usher.
A shadowed bulk leapt from behind a jutting promontory. Promontory? Promontory?
That is a word. I'm not sure what its exact definition is, though.
Find it out.
I'm going to.
But yeah, it was a shadowed. I'm assuming shadowed.
Okay, so it's a point of high land that juts out into the sea or a large lake, a headland, or a protuberance on an organ or other bodily structure when talking about anatomy.
Well,
so it doesn't actually make sense in either context.
your guess is as good as mine.
I mean, yeah, I'm guessing he's using it to try and say that he was hiding behind something that was sticking out, but, you know... Like the quote about him says, he picked the wrong word, then applied it wrongly.
A shadowed bulk leapt from behind a jutting promontory, as it brought down a double-edged axe with the spit of a striking thought.
So that's speed with two P's instead of two E's. The split.
One of the nobles sagged lifelessly to the ground.
Just as lifeless.
Oh yeah. Okay, so one of the nobles sagged lifeless to the ground. Skull split to the teeth. I don't know why, but that's funny to me. Sagged lifeless. Just suddenly like, blah.
I'd like to see how you'd cope with an axe to the head.
I guess so.
Would you sag with aplomb?
Grigner gasped as he observed the bisected face set in its leering death agonies. It was Agathond. The dead man's comrade, having recovered from his shock, drew a jewel-encrusted dagger from beneath the folds of his robe and lunged towards the barbarian's back. Grigner spun at the sound from behind and smashed down his crimson axe. Fucking hell. Grigner spun at the sound from behind and smashed down his crimsoned axe. Why do I keep doing that?
I don't know. You've got a problem.
Yeah, I do. Grignus
You can do this. Get it together.
Grignus spun at the sound from behind and smashed down his crimson. I can't. Okay. Crimsoned axe. I'm gonna do this. Grignus spun at the sound from behind and smashed down his crimsoned axe once more.
Okay, we can bank that sentence now. It's done. You'll never have to read it again.
Okay.
Get your shit together.
His antagonist lunged, howling to a stream of stagnant green water, grasping a spouting stump.
It's going to take a long time to finish the chapter if this is how you read.
Okay. His antagonist lunged, howling to a stream of stagnant green water, grasping a... I don't know what's so...
Louis. Come on.
Okay. Grasping a spouting stump that had once been a wrist, Grigna raised his axe over his head and prepared to finish the incomplete job, but was deterred halfway through his lunge by a frenzied screech from behind. Carthena leapt to the head of the writhing figure, plunging a smouldering torch into the agonized face. The howls increased in their horrid intensity, stifled by the sizzling of Fucking hell. The howls increased in their horrid intensity, stifled by the sizzling of roasting flesh. Okay, I'm having real trouble here. I don't know what's going on. Okay. I'll do that sentence again. The howls increased in their horrid intensity, stifled by the sizzling of roasting flesh, then died down until the man was reduced to a blubbering mass of squirming, insensate flesh.
Mm-hmm. So, wait a second. So, I thought that it said... So, which one of them was Agafind?
Agafind was the one that he killed, right?
That's what I thought, but it's...
Yeah, he gasped as he observed the bisected face. It was Agafind.
Okay.
I mean, I gotta admit, I was finding it hard to follow any of that. As I'm sure everyone else was.
Yeah, it's not going to be any better to the listener. But I don't know, I guess blubbering threw me. I thought that meant that he was really fat.
No, just blubbering.
Just blubbering.
Grigna advanced to Carthena's side, wincing slightly from the putrid aroma of charred flesh that rose in a puff of thick white smog throughout the chamber. Carthena reeled slightly, staring dazedly downward at her gruesome handiwork. I had to do it. It was Agathim. I had to, she exclaimed.
I get it. So, I got mixed up again. There's Agafind and Agathim.
Oh,
I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah.
Remember, Agafind was his vizier dude who was in behind him. Agathim's the fat blubbering prince.
Yeah.
Like, I thought Agafind was dead because Grigna ran him through with a sword before he got put down in the prison. But I guess, he's stronger than he looks, this guy, he just shook it off, made like Taylor Swift and shook it off.
Good reference.
So, yeah,
Taylor Swift
it was
reference.
nice. Yeah, it won't date this at all. I think it's pretty dated already. Right, so Grigna finished off Agafind with an axe to the head. Then he chopped off Agathim's hand, and before he could kill him, Carthena basically burnt his face away with the torch. Am I up to speed here?
Yes. I like to think that
Good.
Agafind is like the Dark Knight or whatever from Monty Python. Like, it is only a scratch.
Yeah, but just as he was about to say that, some lusty wench shoved a flaming torch into his face until he died. That's where King Arthur went wrong.
It's like that thing in The Simpsons with the when they time travel in that Halloween episode, and Groundskeeper Willie keeps getting killed. Oh, I'm bad at this.
Yeah.
Simpsons reference. So, Sargon should be more careful of his right-hand men, added Grigner, a smug grin upon his lips. But to hell with Sargon for now. The stench is becoming bothersome to me. With that, Grigner grasps Carthena around the waist, leading her around the bend in the cave and into the open.
Wait, to hell with Sargon for now? I thought Sargon was like Agaffin's god or something like that. I know. Wait a second, I'm sure that's one of the things they said. Yeah, because I, and so it is with any who dare cross the path of Sargon's chosen one.
Right.
So why is... I don't know. I don't get quite what he means with to hell with Sargon. What's just... I don't know.
Who knows?
Oh, yeah, I guess that bit makes sense. It's like, Sargon should be more careful, but enough of Sargon for now. Yeah, that does make sense. I forgot about that first sentence. I just read what I wanted to, and that was me being confused with Sargon. Carry on, Jim.
A ball of feral red was rising through the mists of the eastern horizon, dissipating the slinking shadows of the night. A corral stood before the pair, enclosing 2 grazing mares. Okay. Grigner reached into a weighted-down leather pouch dangling at his side, and drew forth the skitterlant? Skitterlant?
Skitterlant?
Is that a word?
Yeah, I don't think so. Doesn't look or sound like a word.
And drew forth the skitterlant red emerald he had obtained from the bloated idol.
Definition. Ooh, no, that is a word, okay. Sparkling, basically, I think.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well done. Such thesaurus use from Jim here.
How old was he when you wrote this?
16?
He had no idea what he was writing.
I don't think we have any idea what he was writing either. And a red emerald, for God's sake. Did he not see the problem he had there? When emerald is a type of green anyway,
Well,
just like a colour.
That's what makes this one special.
I guess.
Raising it towards the sun, he said, "We shall do well with Bauble, eh?"
Wait, did you read the bit before about it being about it coming from a bloated idol?
I did.
Okay, I just didn't remember that. I got caught up on looking for scintillant.
We shall do well with Bauble.
Eh?
I did, halfway through reading that sentence, I thought, have I said this wrong? But no, it is we shall do well with Bauble. Eh?
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 Suddenly Canadian.
Yeah. Carthena gaped at the gem, gasping in a terrified manner. The Eye of Argon. Oh, Kala. Apparently.
What?
I'm guessing this is some sort of just exclamation they use. Some sort of god, maybe?
Maybe.
Anyway.
Wow, that's the first we've ever heard of
Yeah.
Kala.
At this, the gem gave off a blinding glow, then dribbled through Grigner's fingers in a slimy red ooze. Grigner stepped back, pushing Carthena behind him. The droplets of slime slowly converged into a pulsating jelly-like mass. A single opening transfixed the blob, forming into a leech-like maw.
Okay.
Then the hideous transgressor of nature flowed towards Grigner, a trail of greenish slime lingering behind it. The single gap puckered...
Why is this red blob leaving a trail of green slime?
Don't question the emerald.
Okay.
Ah, that's interesting. So it's... yeah. It's leaving a green slime. Maybe that's something to do with the emerald. I don't know. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt with this red emerald. There's some green in there.
Just a little. There's some green emerald juice in the red emerald.
The single gap puckered repeatedly, emitting a ghastly sucking sound. I'm having trouble picturing this right now. What does it mean, a single gap? Is it a mouth? Is it like
I think it's like
an ooze slime with a mouth?
I think it's meant to, sort of like a big blob of red slime with like a mouth in it that's sort of like, like a leech's mouth, the kind of sucker thing that's going, bah, pucker, trying to suck.
Grigner spread his legs into a battle stance.
Commencing battle stance.
Do you think he did that when the rat attacked him? I guess he didn't have time.
He was probably sitting down.
Yeah.
Commence battle sit.
Stealing his quivering thews for a battle royal.
Not royale,
No.
a battle royal.
For a battle royal with a thing he knew not how to fight. He couldn't just snap this in half like the rat.
Yeah. How do you snap jelly? How Grigner snap jelly? Not do well with jelly, eh?
Carthena wound her arms... Wound? Wound. Carthena wound her arms about her protector's neck. That can't be helpful.
You're trying to fight to save me. Let me choke you.
Also, that's some feat. Like, isn't he massive? I imagine she's not massive. Or maybe she is.
Maybe she is.
Yeah.
Added to her litheness.
One of the many traits that make her make love well.
You can't make love well unless you have a litheness, Louis.
She makes snoo well. Futurama
As long
reference.
as you only want to kiss.
Mumbling, kill it, kill! while her entire body trembled.
Mumbling. Yeah, it's like exclaimed.
Yeah.
Kill it! Kill! What? What's she do? So she's like... So she's jumped up and like put her arms round his neck. And now she's mumble yelling kill it while like shaking behind him. This must make a nice handicap for Grigner fighting the Argon blob beast.
Yep. So I'm guessing, maybe we'll find out, but I'm guessing Kala was... Do you reckon it's some sort of like word that spawned this? Because it...
Possibly. I was thinking about that, but...
There's not long to go, so I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
I hope we'll find out.
I expect to never hear Kala again.
Yeah. The thing was almost upon Grigner when he buried his axe into the gristly moor. It passed through the blob and clanged upon the ground. Grigner drew his axe back with a film of yellow... Oh, now it's yellow. Yellow-green...
It's yellow-green.
Yellow-green slime clinging to the blade. The thing was seemingly unaffected. Then it started to sluice up his leg. The hairs upon his nape stewed on end from the slimy feel of the thing's bully bulk. What? The hairs upon his nape stewed on end from the slimy feel of the thing's bully, bulk. Yep.
Burly?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I don't know how a lump of slime can possibly be burly. It's the most ripped slime you've ever seen. This is their flexing. It's like, you think you're in the peak of physical Grigner. Check out these slime guns.
The nautus sucking sound became louder.
I'm guessing that's supposed to be nauseous.
Yeah.
But it's capital N-A-U-T-O-U-S.
See, I was actually thinking it was, like, the name of the thing. But
I was wondering that. But I'm pretty sure it's meant to be nauseous.
Anyway, the nautus sucking sound became louder, and Grigner felt the blood being drawn from his body. With each hiss of hideous pucker, the thing increased in size. Grigner shook his foot about madly in an attempt to dislodge the blob, but it clung like a leech. Ooh, nice. Still feeding upon his rapidly draining life fluid.
Why nice?
I don't know, just like a leech. There's been so many descriptions of it being like a leech. Now he's like, it's like a leech, by the way. We get it.
But no, before it had a mouth like a leech. Now it's acting like
clinging
a leech.
like a leech.
Is he sure he didn't just find a leech? Is Grigna just like having a life or death struggle with a leech?
I like shaking his foot about madly.
Yeah. Just, get off me.
Battle stance dislodged. Unable to battle.
This isn't a royal battle at all.
Grigna drew his axe back with a film... Oh no.
Loved it so much.
So, I was hoping he was going to like start swinging at his leg.
Yeah, just cut his leg off. And that's how the story ends.
He grasped with his hands, trying to rip it off, but only found his hands entangled in a sickly glue-like substance. The slimy thing continued its puckering, now having grown the size of Grigna's leg from its vampiric feast. I like, again, another Simpsons reference, the that image of Homer when he goes into that tar pit, and he's like, oh yeah, let me just grab my legs out with my hands, and now to pull my hands out with my face.
Like, no way that plan can go wrong.
No.
Impeccable.
I just have that image of Grigna.
Managing to, like, get all of his body stuck on this lump on his leg. Like, he's got his other foot in there now, both his hands, his face. Then Carthena tries to help. She gets her hand stuck in there. Then she starts getting choked with her head in it.
Slime's just like, man, these guys are idiots.
It's like, Jesus, like I haven't even finished sucking this guy's blood yet.
Grigna began to reel and stagger under the blob, his chalk-white face and faltering muscles attesting to the gigantic loss of blood. Carthena slipped from Grigna in a death-like faint, a morrow-chilling scream upon her red rubish lips. Rubbish? Rubish. Is rubish a word?
No. I mean, I think...
I know what it's trying to say. That her lips are ruby-like.
Google just suggests I might mean rubbish.
And then when you say, yes, I meant rubbish, it goes, did you mean Eye of Argon? In final desperation, Grigna grasped the smouldering torch upon the ground and plunged it into the reeking maw of the travesty. Probably could have been one of his, maybe his second choice.
Yeah, one of the opening gambits before what this is, before madly shaking your leg and getting your hands stuck in it.
A shudder passed through the thing. Grigna felt the blackness closing upon his eyes, but held on with the last ebb of his rapidly waning vitality. He could feel its grip lessening as a hideous gurgling sound erupted from the writhing maw. The jelly-like mass began to bubble like a vat of boiling tar as quavers passed up and down its entire form. And that's it.
And that's the end of available copy. Until they found the ending later, this was like how the story of the Eye of Argon ended, with Grigna apparently dying after having killed the Eye of Argon, which came to life out of fucking nowhere to try and kill him. I mean, man, I'm interested to see how this gets tied up in the actual ending now. Could you imagine how cheated you'd feel if this was all of your ending? It's like, wait, what? That's it? It's done?
So do you want to read the lost ending?
With a sloshing plop, the thing fell to the ground.
Is it sloshing or is it plopping?
Why not have both? It sloshes as it plops. Beautiful. Evaporating in a thick scarlet cloud until it reattained its original size. It remained thus for a moment, as the puckered maw took the shape of a protruding red eyeball, the pupil of which seemed to unravel before it in the tale of creation. How a shapeless mass slithered from the quagmires of the stigmatic pool of time, only to degenerate into a leprosy of avaricious lust.
What the fuck?
In that fleeting moment, the grim mystery of life was revealed before Grigna's ensnared gaze. So, this is where the 60s caught up with Jim and he discovered drugs, clearly. The eyeball's glare turned to the sudden plea of mercy, a plea for the whole of humanity. Then the blob began to quiver with violent convulsions. The eyeball shattered into 1,000 tiny fragments and evaporated in a curling wisp of scarlet mist. The very ground below the thing began to vibrate and swallow it up with a belch. The thing was gone forever. All that remained was a dark red blotch upon the face of the earth. Blotching things up. What? Amazing. Shaking his head, his shaggy mane to clear the jumbled fragments of his mind, Grigner tossed the limp female over his shoulder. What? Oh dear. Mounting one of the disgruntled mares and leading the other, the weary, scarred barbarian trooted slowly off into the horizon. Trooted. The weary, scarred barbarian trooted slowly off into the horizon to become a tiny pinpoint in the filtered field of swirling blue mists, leaving the nobles, soldiers and peasants to replace the missing monarch. Long live the king! I think that final sentence and exclamation summarises the book perfectly, really.
I think that's the best ending ever. Brilliant.
That was amazing. Long live the king.
Ah, what a story.
Yeah, what a tale for the ages.
What the hell was that book without the ending? Like, if without the ending, it would have ended with him putting fire into the thing, and that's it. There was no, nothing happened.
Yeah, it seemed to start falling off him, kind of. It's like, it started to bubble, so it's clear that it isn't in a good way.
I wonder if there's a story behind the lost ending. Like, how was it lost?
I actually don't know. Gonna have to Google it.
Here we go, I found it. The version usually found on the internet is incomplete, ending with the phrase, "end of available copy." Langford's science fiction newsletter, Ansible, reported in its February 2005 issue that, according to a letter in the New York Review of Science Fiction, a complete copy of the relevant 1970 fanzine has been unearthed in the Jack Williamson SF Library at Eastern New Mexico University. JWSFL collection administrator Gene Bundy reports that the long missing page 49 begins with a sloshing plop. The thing fell to the ground, evaporating in a thick scarlet cloud. So I guess they just found it.
But how did it get lost? So it was in the original magazine run that it was being printed in the 70s, because from what I can understand, it's just that the version on the internet, until they unearthed a copy of the magazine for some reason, had missed out the end, somehow, but it doesn't actually say how. Still weird. I wonder how it got lost.
I'm glad they found it though, because that was some ending.
What on earth was that? So this red lump fell off Grigner, an eye popped out of its mouth hole, and which then Grigner starts having one hell of an existential trip, the pupil of which seemed to unravel before it the tale of creation. Now I don't even understand what this sentence means. How a shapeless mass slithered from the quagmires of the stigmatic pool of time, only to degenerate into a leprosy of avaricious lust.
Yep,
what?
Absolutely no idea.
What the fuck does that have to do or mean with anything? What? I just don't even.
Those are just words thrown in between two full stops.
Yeah, with a comma chucked in there, just to mix things up. But in that fleeting moment, the grim mystery of life was revealed before Grigna's ensnared gaze. So Grigna looks into this mouth eye and sees the meaning of life, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And the eyeball, doesn't share that with us. We don't know what Grigna actually saw or learnt, just that it taught him the meaning of life. Looking into the eye.
And how does he suddenly become king?
I don't think he is the king. I think you're misunderstanding.
It says, leaving the noble soldiers and peasants to replace the missing monarch. Long live the king.
Yeah, but that's not Grigna. Grigna wanders off into the horizon with a wench over his shoulder.
Yeah, leaving the noble to replace the missing monarch.
Yeah, with just another person.
But I think it's saying that he is leaving to replace the missing monarch.
I don't think that's true.
Long live the king. Why would it end with long live the king?
Because the king is dead, long live the king. They just got another king to replace our blubbering prince. Because that's the way
he's
of
becoming
humanity.
king.
No. Grigna's gone off to barbarian in the waste some more. And as is human...
I can see how your interpretation makes sense. But it could be read either way, I think.
Again, I can see where you're coming from, but I think you're wrong. So we both can see how the other person's read it that way, but we're sure that our way's the right one.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess dealer's choice. You at home can decide whether Grigna went on to become the accordion king of this city. What's it even called?
God, it feels like months.
It was so long ago. This has been nothing compared to how long we've even been reading the way the stars fall. But
Gorzon?
It feels so long. Gorzon, that's it. So how does it end? Does Grigna become the king of Gorzon? I'm assuming with Carthena just constantly draped over his shoulders now.
The limp female.
Or does Grigna wander off into the wilderness to barbarian some more? And, the people of Gorzon just find a new king to replace the king.
I like how one of the horses he rides off on is disgruntled.
Yeah, he did not want to be ridden. She, actually. I think he said they were mares.
Nice, good catch.
Yeah, I nearly made a fool of myself there.
So, something that comes along with this copy is transcriber's notes, apparently.
Yeah, because, originally, of course, someone was having to copy the magazine down and actually type it up to make, the internet and printed versions that came elsewhere. Because, well, even in the magazine, actually, of course. Yeah, scratch that. This is what the guy had to put in the magazine, surely, because, he was given, a typewritten piece from Jim, and he had to make it, get printed. So, this is what the transcriber had to say about the Eye of Argon.
So here's the transcriber's note. It starts with, no mere transcription can give the true flavour of the original printing of the Eye of Argon. It was mimeographed with stencils cut on an elite manual typewriter. Many letters were so faint as to be barely readable, others were overstruck, and some that were to be removed never got painted out with correction fluid. Usually, only one space separated sentences, while paragraphs were separated by a blank line and were indented 10 spaces. Many words were grotesquely hyphenated.
Nice.
And there were illustrations. I cannot do them justice in mere words, but they were a match for the text. Please find them now. These are the major losses of this version, 02, of the Eye of Argon. God, they would have been good to see.
Yeah, I hope they exist on the internet.
Otherwise, all effort has been made to retain the full and correct text, preserving even misspellings and drop spaces. An excellent proofreader has checked it for errors both omitted and committed. What mismatches remain are mine. I shall endeavour to keep a copy of the original available for viewing, so it may be appreciated in all its fullness. but as a labour of love for those whose third-generation copies have now succumbed to the bitter vicissitudes of time and entropy, worn away by the ravages of countless rereadings before enthralled audiences, yet who have found that the is that supposed to be a reference?
Possibly.
That spelling mistake, so meta. Yet who have found that the heady flavour of its stylistic paragraphs has seeped into their soul and still grips it with a fervid grasp. I dedicate this machine-readable version of the inimitable The Eye of Argon.
Inimitable.
No, I know it is imitable, but inimitable.
Yeah, no, inimitable.
Inimitable.
Yeah,
I just read that sentence again.
possibly for the best.
I dedicate this machine-readable version of the inimitable The Eye of Argon.
Inimitable.
Inimitable. I dedicate...
Yes.
Okay. I dedicate... Fuck me. I dedicate... Okay. I dedicate this machine-readable version of the inimitable...
Inimitable.
That's what I'm saying. I dedicate this machine-readable version of the inimitable The Eye of Argon.
Fuck me. Wow. So that's it. That's the first text that we've finished on Two Absolute Bookends in our little wacky adventure while taking a break from the way the stars fall. So I suppose, what did you think of the Eye of Argon in its entirety, Louis?
Yeah, it was a lot said, but like there was a lot of words, but not a lot said, is what I should say.
Yeah.
It was very long for what was actually in there, content-wise.
Yeah. Not much actually occurred.
No,
story-wise.
a guy pissed off a prince and got locked away, and then escaped, and yeah.
Like, you know, I know when you do broad strokes on stories, you know, you can cut down very complex plots to short generalised statements like that, but that is actually what this is like. I mean, you know, like, all you're missing is description of violence, basically.
And also
There's no
weird,
actual story.
like, very weirdly, sort of almost seemingly unrelated stories, like that. The way the book actually starts, I guess that was just to paint the picture of Grigner as being a barbarian. You know, it started with him like slaying people, I think.
Yeah, on the road to Gorzom.
Yeah, I guess that was just painting the picture for what kind of a man Grigner is.
Yep.
But yeah, it was very good for how bad it was.
Yeah, it was certainly just something to behold. It had some just baffling moments. Just, I don't know, I think the two that immediately jumped back at me was just the whole conversation with the prince, like in the room of his chateau.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I think the guard having an epileptic fit nearly killed me.
Yeah, I think another of my favourite moments is the absolute destruction of the rat.
Oh yeah, I'd forgotten about that. How can so little happen yet I forget parts of it?
And how can we forget making love well?
I mean, it didn't take either of them long, but damn did they do it well. Grigner admitted.
Yeah, it took a lot of concentration to read. I'll say that, and obviously,
Yeah.
I obviously didn't put enough concentration into it.
Yeah, it was pretty hard going. Like everything is so like fruitily described. You know, it like goes into way too much descriptive detail on the weirdest things, and it's clear that he's just like sitting there with like a thesaurus or a book of synonyms next to him just to get like really weird descriptions, and that's to say nothing of like the misspellings and weird grammar coming up as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like you do have to occasionally just stop and try and work out what he's trying to say. But even when the things he's writing isn't like outright wrong, it is still the case a lot of the time that, we have to just sort of like going, wait, so what's actually happened or been said, He spent like 3 sentences describing this altar. It's like, what? Why?
And I think
why is it this detailed?
I think there were about 2 or 3 sentences which we still we still don't know what the hell they were talking about.
We just gave up on them, just because there's no point. We've got no idea what they were trying to say.
I would like to see some of these grotesque hyphenations, or like, I just can't imagine what they are. He just like fell asleep or something on his hyphen.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't leave the hyphens in just to see. Oh dear.
Like not only erroneous hyphens, but grotesque.
It's like, what were they doing to the words?
Oh, I was imagining them like just not anywhere near words, just like hyphens spread around. But yeah, it probably makes more sense that they were like words that shouldn't be hyphenated.
Yeah.
I don't think I give him enough credit.
Yeah, he was trying to word, but he wasn't quite succeeding. But yeah, it's like, I would have thought that at the end of a story I'd have more to say about it, but it is the case that, just as we keep saying, like, so little actually happened. There's not much of, there's no actual character to any of the characters to describe. They are all just exactly as you see them. Grigna is a barbarian.
Mm-hmm.
He has no drives other than killing people and making love well. Basically, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Like Agaphim is just Agaphim. The Fat Prince. He's
Agaphim.
just Agaphim. Okay, like what's there to him? He's just an evil prince that's taxing the realm, using that to buy soldiers, and just sitting there making money, growing fat, having his buddy up inside him and 2 naked women sitting next to him, just living the high life. And yeah, the wench, I mean, she's probably the most developed character out of all of them, but that's not saying much. At least she has a bit of a backstory of being part of his sort of like collection of women in the Seraglio, and then she escaped. Now she's back. She loved this guy, probably. Maybe not. Like Grigna certainly has his doubts that she was making love to him in sin. But yeah, and eventually she gets over it and kills Agaphim in like revenge. So that's almost a character arc in the most loose sense of like developing her characters and events. But yeah, and there's not really any other actual characters in it when I think about it. Those are the only 3 that have any more than like a sentence of interaction with Grigna.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like Agafind got named, but he said like 2 sentences to the prince. We know he's crafty. Then he got stabbed. Then he's meet him again. He's still crafty, and he gets his head split open. He's not a character. He's hardly even a fucking trope because he doesn't do enough. But yeah, and what could we say about the plot? I think I put it quite well in the last podcast. Where I was like, this is just a collection of over-described pieces of violence and other bad events happening, like strung together by the loosest possible story you could think of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's not much more to say, really.
I mean, the Eye of Argon is the Eye of Argon. Like definitely worth reading and looking at yourself, because I know this was probably a weird way to have it You know, we probably didn't do the best at reading it. There was probably a lot of breaking down, laughing, and getting sidetracked. You know, so you should. So, like I keep saying at the start, you know, you should track down a copy. You can just find it online, have a read through yourself, and just realise that we weren't exaggerating. You know, we weren't saying things wrong. This is part of Jim's vision. This is exactly what he wanted his story to be. Yeah, I know. I guess the one thing I do have to say about what we laughingly call a plot is like how out of nowhere, even in its own context, the whole thing with the actual Eye of Argon and the weird acolytes is. It's like that has nothing to do with like the prince and what happens with Grigna, really. It's like, no, it's just like, because like when we get a description, it's like the prince doesn't even seem to particularly know about these guys down here, because they're like, oh, they stole Carthena to use in their thing, and if the prince found out, then he'd like go crazy and hunt them all down. So like, it seems like that he doesn't even know there's this like little cult living in his basement and sacrificing people. Like, certainly there's, like, no reference to him being aware of it happening. Mm-hmm. So it's, like, weird, you know, there's, like, this... I don't know, it's weird that so much of the book has nothing to do with the Eye of Argon, really.
Yeah. And how there's no real sort of conclusion to... I don't know, it's a bit unsatisfying, like, the ending, to me.
Yeah, it just completely comes out of nowhere. Like, why? What was the Eye of Argon? Like,
what were they doing with the presumably? Well, what were they doing with these women? Were they offering it as sacrifice to the Eye of Argon?
Yeah, I mean, I'm imagining it was sacrificing just because of how Carthena was reacting to it. But yeah, why? Why were they doing this? Why is there this weird shape-changing red emerald that was shoved in the eye of this big shaggy-lipped jade idol? What? Like, I don't understand anything about what was happening with the acolytes, and they don't offer an explanation of what was happening. It's just, yeah, they were just down there doing acolyte things, and it just comes so out of nowhere. It's like, we did it. We escaped the acolytes. We killed Agafind. So now, look at this. We'll make good with this treasure, wench? And then it turns into a goopy thing that tries to eat them with its leech mouth. Then after burning it, it teaches Grigna the meaning of life and dies.
Yeah, that's what you needed to do to unlock the secret of it. Burn it.
Yeah,
and we don't even know how it turned into this ooze. I mean, we think it might be something the wench said, but
yeah.
Then why did she know?
Like, I don't know. I'm guessing that thing she said was just like another thing, like Murph, like just like generic fake god curse, like Kala.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I guess the simple answer is magic evil emerald turn into slime monster when, I don't know, gets touched by the sun, maybe, because they're like outside now.
Possibly.
And down in this thing. But yeah, it's just so out of nowhere. Like I don't think that made for like, if they'd cut all of that and they just like got on horses and rode off into the sunset, long live the king, etc., and they cut out the whole thing with the slime monster, I don't think anyone would have felt that the story was any weaker for it. It would have, you know, we would have missed out on some more ridiculous descriptions and circumstances, but as an actual story, I don't think anyone would have found the end any less satisfying for them just going off into the distance there and that being our conclusion. Yeah, it is like, you know, 16-year-old Jim just got bored and wanted the story to end. Mm-hmm. It's like, and he's like, fuck, I've called the story The Eye of Argon. so far it's just a gem. Just we've got to finish this. Fuck it. And the gem turns into a monster. And Grignor stabs it with some fire. And it teaches him the meaning of life. Yeah, that'll do. Long live the king. I know. What the story, such as it is, does not stand up to much scrutiny. But I don't think any of it stands up to much scrutiny, really, does it?
No. No.
I mean, yeah, so... I feel like we're done with the Eye of Argon. I think it'll live on forever in our hearts, but there's not much more to say about it. Any more comments, Louis?
No.
Cool. So, it's going to be a little weird. Next week's episode is going to be The Way the Stars Fall, Chapter 11, but we recorded that before we recorded any of the Eye of Argon. So, I guess that probably won't make much of a difference as you're listening to the episode, but just in case it feels weird that we don't make any reference to the fact we haven't read the book in a few weeks, it's because, we hadn't. We read it weeks ago.
I forgot about that, actually.
Yeah. So I know I might put an extra little mention at the start of the episode. I'll see how it sounds, but yeah, just in case anything seems a little weird next week, it's because it was recorded weeks ago. And in the linear time we're living in, we're going to be reading chapter 12 soon. But you've still got a little while to look forward to for that treat to come around. I've read it before, but I think, in memory of the late and great Jim Theis, that we should close out our examination of his magnum opus with the great quote about him from David Langford, where we should remember Theis in our heart of hearts as a malaprop genius, a McGonagall of prose, with an eerie gift for choosing the wrong word and then misapplying it. So, rest in peace, Jim, you magnificent bastard, and long live the king. Goodbye.
Murph.